All right, on the Randy Forcier Podcast, I am excited to have Eric Collins. Eric's a longtime friend of mine. He's an attorney with Sheehan Phinney. Been working on this podcast for a long time, pal. We finally made it happen.
We finally did. Yes, yes. Many attempts, but we finally reached the finish line.
It's hard to nail down you attorneys. You know, your billable hours and your assistants and all these gatekeepers, but we did it.
We did it. We did it. We reached the end. Look, fortunately, the team behind me is very encouraging with this type of content. So, the minute I brought it up, it piqued their interest. So it's good.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking attorney stuff, legal stuff. I don't know if we're going to have to get this cleared after the fact, but we'll just wing it and we'll see what happens. So I think you're the first lawyer on the podcast. So it's quite an honor, I would say.
Excellent. Hopefully not the last.
Hopefully not. Well, maybe. We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah, great.
But a whole bunch of different stuff to talk about. But before we get to that, how long have you been an attorney now? It's been a while.
Yeah, I've been practicing since 2014. So that's 12 years now. Yeah.
Did you always see yourself as an attorney growing up? Is it one of those things that you're in high school, you're like, I want to be an attorney someday. And then you just kind of went down that path or is it a little bit different than that?
It certainly piqued my interest. I wasn't sure what kind of law I wanted to practice, and getting into undergrad, I had an opportunity to take some con law classes and this is just undergrad con law classes, but con law, business law classes that piqued my interest even further. And I knew that I wanted to pursue a law degree in undergrad. And so from there, I was able to self-design a major that fit what I wanted to do, which was political economy. And it involved some very basic legal classes, but also a lot more business, economics, and political courses that taught you on the finance side, but also on the government structure and legislative side as well.
Which is a lot of the stuff we'll dig into, but law is so diverse. It wasn't like, maybe I'll be a defense attorney or something. It was always that business focus, a little bit government focused.
Yeah, what's nice go ahead, sorry.
No, I mean, it sounds like that's what made the most sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was always interested in politics and in government, and so I think that tended to push me into an area where I'd be able to use or continue with that interest. And then secondarily, business and finance was always interesting to me. Economics in general. I was part of the economics team in high school, and so that just meshed together in undergrad. It worked out well, and pursued law school afterwards.
So here we are, 12 years into your law career. Mm-hmm. What is the thing that you're doing most for your clients? General counsel?
Yeah, that I would say is the biggest part of my practice right now, and that is combined with M&A transactions. But those kind of two general areas are where my practice is focusing on now. Industry agnostic for right now, but
for now, okay. And we'll get to the M&A stuff too. But I want to talk about the general counsel piece because I don't know what a general counsel does from day to day.
Sure.
What do you do from a day-to-day point of view? Are you consulting with the businesses that you are general counsel for on a regular basis? Do they reach out when they need something? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So when I say general counsel, I mean like an outside fractional general counsel. So there are some businesses that are large enough, especially publicly traded companies, but even private companies will have an office of general counsel. So on their C-suite, they'll have a CEO, COO, CFO, and general counsel will sit on the C-suite typically. And then that might get built out. There may be other subordinates in the general counsel's office that are other attorneys as well. And so that's in-house, what we consider in-house. What I'm talking about is general counsel work that's still done through a law firm. And as a lawyer, a corporate attorney working for a business, providing outside general counsel is more than just dealing with one particular legal matter. Not coming to me with a problem and asking me to solve that particular problem in a vacuum. What I like to do with my clients and the programs that we offer at Sheehan is to be an extension of their C-suite, to be part of the organization's operations, so that I'm coming in from getting a global perspective of the operations of the company, from financial to operations, and then also how those blend into legal risks. It's not all legal issues when you're operating a business. It's how legal interacts with your other operational concerns, your finance concerns, your growth strategy. And having somebody like myself on the C-suite allows the company to tap into legal with an expected cost and on a regular ongoing basis. So I get to learn how the company operates and provide advice with that knowledge rather than advice just in a vacuum.
So it's not like they're hiring just Sheehan Phinney. It's you. You're the person, right? Or is it?
Yeah. Well, the converse of that is, so they're hiring me with the background of, or the support of Sheehan Phinney. So what is so nice about being a part of a larger platform, we have 75 plus attorneys throughout New England, is I'm representing a manufacturing company that has some questions about ocean compliance. Great. We have an attorney on staff that handles OSHA training, OSHA compliance issues, OSHA violations. And so using my training in order to spot potential issues with the operations of a company, I can help the C-suite identify where those potential problems or potential risks are, and then also have a resource here at the firm to be able to help with that.
Which is huge, because you could just be an individual that provides that general counsel, but just having the backing of a company like Sheehan Phinney is huge. Or would you say most legal counsels are a firm size similar to Sheehan Phinney?
No, there are a few different models. There are some that provide outside general counsel service and then refer a lot of business. They might spot an issue, and I'm not saying that Sheehan can do everything. We can't, but we are billed as a full service law firm. And there are some models where you have a fractional general counsel service. They're all over the internet, and they're a single attorney, and they'll refer out business. They're acting more as like a conduit and a business advisor rather than a lawyer acting as a business advisor. And so I think that's the difference that we can bring to the table is, yes, we're a law firm. We're maintaining privilege and confidentiality as we're working with these clients. It can get a little hairy sometimes when you're an in-house lawyer, that privilege and confidentiality become a little bit more challenging when you're in-house. And so we can provide that while providing additional resources and a deeper bench, right? A company's going through a strategic acquisition. They want to bulk up and add to their operations by either adding in a different company or assets from a different company to their operations. It's not just me. It's just on our corporate transactions team alone, there are 20 attorneys. So it's then that's supplemented by tax and estate planning. We run the gamut. So we're able to assist operating businesses with those needs on a regular basis.
So what are some of the biggest legal mistakes that you see some small businesses make before they ever call you or make them then call you? There are common things that you see?
Yeah, I mean, what can happen with a business, and I see it often. The reason why I like practicing in the corporate space is because I can live vicariously through my clients without taking any of the risk whatsoever. And it's great. It's great. I get to see ideas come to life, help those ideas come to fruition and go to market and then make money. And sometimes with business owners, it can become difficult to see, or even operators, it can be difficult to sometimes see beyond the rosy shade of the growth, the opportunity, the exciting and invigorating actions that the company is taking to move forward. Your profits up, your finances look great, you're adding employees, and then all of a sudden, you're adding employees. What does that mean? What does it mean to go from 6 employees to 16 employees? Or 36 employees. And that's from an operational standpoint, there's one question, but from a legal standpoint, there's compliance involved. Companies that have 6 employees in some states are exempt from certain laws at the state level and also at the federal level. Companies in certain states with more than 6 employees there's a threshold there. You're not exempt from certain laws. And then on the federal level, usually above 15 employees you have to deal with compliance with certain federal laws. So there's one example, right? The company is growing and moving forward and really advancing, and you're adding to the labor pool and you're adding great talent to the labor pool, but nobody is there without an outside general counsel. Nobody is there to think about how that growth can have an impact on risks or generate additional risks that just have to be managed. And sometimes lawyers in a company can be viewed as like the no fun, the fun busters. That's not how I approach the law. In the end, it's the client's decision to make on any choice in operating their business. It's my responsibility to inform them of the risks and benefits with an individualized course of action, and then they can decide what they want to do. But I don't necessarily approach a transaction or idea or a concept saying, well, you really can't do this. I understand this is what you want to do. Let's create a structure that mitigates the risks, and then you can understand what the rest of the risks are and make a decision whether or not it works well for you. You're ready to assume those.
So how do you separate being what it sounds like a legal advisor versus sometimes you need to be a business advisor?
Sure.
One you favor one over the other? Obviously,
I
legal.
think the benefit of having an outside general counsel model is that the two are blended. That the business owner is not coming into engaging. Quite often, a business can engage counsel for a specific purpose. I need to buy this piece of real estate because my operations are growing. I need to expand my office space into the secondary location or expand it to another location. My geographic footprint's growing. I need to expand to a different location. I have to hire a law firm because the bank tells me I have to hire a law firm to negotiate the purchase and sale agreement and to buy the real estate. Great. But if that's all you're hiring a law firm to do, you're totally losing out on the global perspective of your employee count. Is the second location in the same state? Do you have compliance issues with that? If you're operating in two states, is a lot different than operating in a single state. How does the growth impact your finances? Are there tax considerations involved that we need to analyze? All of those things that aren't necessarily considered because the lawyer that's being hired to just do the real estate transaction is doing what he's hired or she's hired to be doing, the real estate transaction, versus having somebody with a global perspective on your operations that can provide more holistic advice.
It makes a ton of sense. Now, have you seen any scenarios where you were able to save a company substantial amount of money just by having you on staff versus like something could have went sideways and you were just like, wow, good thing I was there to help navigate this stuff?
Yeah, one situation that I think about is a company that was a manufacturer in the food space, and they were on the verge. They were developing a brand, and they were on the verge of spending tens of thousands of dollars on marketing collateral for that brand. They needed food packaging. They needed marketing collateral outside of the packaging as well, but all of the labeling associated with the inside packaging, because it had to be food grade, and then you had the outside packaging, and then your displays at the stands where the food was going to be sold and at retail. And they approached me first at the brand concept idea, and I said, okay, well, before you go any further and spend money on marketing that you could otherwise throw away, we should just do a search and figure out where this brand lands with other brands on the market that may be similar. And through that search, we found a brand that was similar, owned by an unknown entity called the Heinz Corporation. And so a decision was made at that point to analyze whether or not it would be worth continuing with this brand, knowing that there was this behemoth out there already in this space that could potentially prevent or cost the company money in utilizing that brand. So yeah, that's an instance where if you bring somebody in at the forefront, I can help so much versus when you get the letter from the Heinz Corporation that says, stop using my mark or my brand, then it becomes a little bit more challenging.
After, like you said, tens of thousands, I don't know how much packaging costs and branding and all that stuff, but like if they would have went to that next level without doing that check, and then you do get the letter from Heinz, a company that has basically bottomless pockets, that's a terrible position. I mean, I would imagine that could be something that would sink certain businesses.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's ways to fight through that stuff, but if you're having
Well,
to
there is with
face
enough capital, but like you mentioned, you can only if you're fighting somebody like that with bottomless pockets, roughly, that's interested in protecting their brand. Yeah, it becomes a lot more
which they're certainly entitled
difficult.
to do. So it's not like
Sure,
but it makes a ton of sense to do that stuff before. But I'm sure that it doesn't happen as much as you like. I'm sure there's people that have gotten bad advice, or they just get too ahead of themselves, and they find themselves in a situation with a letter from a big company like Heinz, and then they have to reach out to you, and it's a lot different options moving forward at that point. I'm sure.
yeah. I mean, I know many businesses that have now become clients of mine that operated without so much as a scar for many years, generating millions of dollars in revenue, and they were fortunate, and that's great. Now they're clients and we're working with them, and that's great as well. But I guess it comes down to the risk benefit analysis. If you're building a business, or if you're operating the business on behalf of somebody else, that's a whole different question. But if you're building a business that is generating millions of dollars in gross revenue, you have employees that you're employing that are relying on you for continued employment. The business is throwing off cash that supports your family and the families of others as well. You want to protect that. And it seems short-sighted to me to not engage in advisors, and not just legal advisors, but tax advisors, financial advisors, to build a team around the business that you've developed, the asset that you've developed, to protect it, protect everything you've built going forward.
I guess that brings me to my next question. What would you say separates the average business owners from the really great ones in your experience? Is there a common trait?
I don't know if there's a common trait. Steadfastness, perseverance, vision. I mean, those are all great characteristics of business owners and leaders, right? Those that accept the status quo, or just steady, may not, or idle, I should say, are probably not the best leaders, especially if you're looking at growth for a business. And that's fine. It's neither here nor there, but I'm not judging those people. But those are certain qualities you see in a good owner and operator on a regular basis.
Sure. Now you work with companies through formation and operation, and then through exit as well.
Yeah, correct.
What does that look like? What's the typical journey look like for those companies?
Yeah, so I see it kind of like as a continuum of time, where you're on the formation side, which is those that are at the concept or idea level. And that's just not me, but other members of other colleagues at my firm as well. At the formation and idea level, so the entrepreneur that's developing a business, happy to help with those clients as well. And then related to that, the business that's already existing, but forming yet a subsidiary, or whether it's wholly owned or with a joint venture, something new and exciting outside of their normal operations. Happy to help with that too. And then through their operational lifespan, no different than a human being. There's things that happen in between. Financing, whether it's commercial or private equity financing, or private financing, private debt financing, employee management, vendor disputes, vendor relationship, contract management, just your day-to-day operational needs that involve legal review, and growth, whether you're buying businesses or assets and adding on to your operations going forward. And then in the end, whether it's a family held business that's transitioning to the next generation, or selling, liquidating a part of your business in order to grow and add to maybe a business line that's already producing more revenue. That's the exit piece. Happy to help with businesses navigating those transactions at the end too.
When should people, or business owners, I should say, start thinking about that succession planning or exiting? Is that something that you should plan 5 years in advance, or is it just one of those things that you can really do on a lot shorter term basis than you think?
I mean, the benefit that time provides you, just like with the time value of money, for example, If you're able to put a dollar at work today, it's probably better than the dollar at work tomorrow or 3 or 4 years down the line. And the same thing goes with planning for exits and succession planning, especially intergenerational transfers, because there's so much that can be done ahead of time with estate planning, tax planning, with a business, especially with where the business is like the prime value of the family's wealth. There's so much that can be done ahead of time, either through gifting strategies, trust management, trust structure and creation, in order to deal with tax issues that are going to be expected, but also to prepare the business operationally for activity after the business owner's gone. When you want to, if you're not doing a generational transition and you're not selling to the younger generation coming up as business owners, there needs to be a management plan in place, such that when a year or two before you're leaving the stage, there's professional managers in place managing the operations of the company. You need to be able to sell an operating asset, not a job for somebody else to do. And that takes time and effort, not necessarily from legal, just structurally, operationally from your C-suite level.
Businesses are just like the person that runs the business, and if you remove
significant, yeah,
like remove them from the picture, I assume a lot of those type of businesses, those people are required to stay on for X number of years.
That is a possibility. That is a possibility. But if you want to maximize, I was just at an M&A conference last week. If you want to maximize the value, the transferable value of your business, you see there's a lot of blue collar businesses that are up for sale now. You see plumbing companies, electrical companies, and landscaping, and those, when you think about those, they're kind of like the businesses that you're thinking of as owner operated, and they may be generating a few $1,000,000 in gross revenue. Fantastic. But without that owner operator there, the value dissipates dramatically.
Yeah, for sure.
And so in order for those businesses to really capture the inherent value that they're thinking, the market value, the prime market value, they need to be able to leave that business and have it run the same, have it generate the same cash flow, have it generate the same jobs that they're doing, and be able to expand, because the new owner is going to want to recapture that investment, and hopefully in a shorter period of time than what was planned.
So it sounds like the one that is set up just to kind of continue, if you remove that key person, would be more valuable than the one that is so dependent on. So is that, 100%. But that is actually what it is. Like, business that way, like, will sell for more.
Absolutely.
The buyers
100%.
appreciate that. Okay.
Yep.
So I guess then what's 100%. The biggest misconception?
Sometimes multiples of more.
Yeah. Just for the fact that it's turnkey and just doesn't depend on that person. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
Because then you increase your buyers, right? So if you're, say, the plumbing company, for example, right? You're trying to sell your plumbing company, and you're the key owner. Maybe there's another owner. Both of you are plumbers, master plumbers, or whatever the accreditation is, licensing is in your state. And you want to exit the market, retire, or just sell a business and do something else. Maybe you don't want to be in plumbing, whatever else. That's great. But if you're operating the business on a day-to-day basis, and it takes your knowledge as a master plumber to operate that business on a day-to-day basis, the only people that you're going to be able to sell to are other master plumbers. So you're limiting your market. And then in that market, you have to find people that are willing to pay the amount of money that you want to get for your business in order to leave. And so, again, making it a business that's standalone without your effort on a day-to-day basis. Certainly key management ideas, key management execution, kind of C-suite level execution, definitely. That's fine. Somebody else can step in and do that. But the day-to-day operations, you don't want to be involved in that if you want to maximize your value in the market. Because doing that, you get to sell to a bunch of it's a cash flow stream at that point.
At that point, it doesn't have to be a master plumber that's buying the plumbing company. But I just always, when I think of valuing businesses, I always just think it's like X times revenue. And maybe that's like a starting point, but then you kind of adjust based on, well, is this person going to stay? Are they going to leave? Is it turnkey?
Sure.
But part of me just thought it was always like, is there a rule of thumb for that? Is it like 3X times revenue, 10X times revenue, or is it really just depend on the industry, depend on the market?
Yeah, I'm
certainly how people price their businesses.
Yeah, I'm not a business valuation expert, but I will say that the valuation of privately held businesses is fickle and can be very fluid, and it can depend on how you market a particular business as well, and whether or not you create your own kind of competition between potential suitors in the exit process to drive up value. But in terms of multiples, yeah, there is a general pattern where industries generally, industry X, for example, if we're going with the plumbing example, plumbing companies are going for 2.2x EBITDA. Um, that
Income
is a
before, what is it? Income before, what's
interest,
EBITDA?
depreciation, amortization, and taxes,
Yeah, okay.
or taxes and amortization. But that market, that benchmark at 2.2, for example, is going to be based on the fact that you're not in the business anymore. Like that you can sell a transferable business. And that's the difference with valuation. You may get 1x EBITDA if you're not in there. So just by having a professional management crew or group in the business, you're more than doubling your potential purchase price. Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense. Okay. Hammering home, just 'cause we're going to wrap it up in a little bit. But if someone you know is starting a company tomorrow, what's the one thing they should get right from day one? Is there any type of advice that you'd give out? Get general counsel early?
Um, yeah. And so the you may have to edit this part out, but you want when you're approaching forming a business, and I guess it depends on if you form a business just as an entrepreneur and you're creating this from scratch versus buying an existing business. I mean, those are different pieces of advice. But from certainly from a pre-existing business, you definitely want counsel from the get-go. Before you even buy that business, you want to come up with a strategy with counsel, with financial advisors, with your bankers, whoever's financing the deal, in order to help create structure, what's the most tax efficient way to acquire the business, and how do you manage the structure of the actual corporate structure of the business going forward, due diligence, all that stuff. That's hands down. Like you just need to engage counsel in advance of that. And you should probably engage counsel in advance of that to get comfort around the counsel that you're working with, because you don't want to be involved in a deal that you have either personality conflicts, or there's friction between counsel and client, or you don't like the way that the counsel operates. Like get that done ahead of time. Engage counsel, get it done, do a few transactions, make sure that you're comfortable with them. On the entrepreneur side, there are so many, and it's growing by the day, tools out there that can be used by the user. Legal Inc. was the biggest one, a few years ago, where you just go to some online platform and it generates formation documents, and that's great. And we can do that too, not using the online platform, but we have our own formation documents, and in some instances they're highly customized depending on the nature of the transaction. In some instances they're not highly customized. The benefit that you get from coming to a lawyer versus Legal Inc. is much like using general counsel versus hiring a lawyer to do a specific job, where the lawyer at formation can advise you on corporate structure that's appropriate, tax structure that's appropriate, and then foresee what you need to do. So, for example, a business that's looking to raise capital in the future, in the near future, within the next 18 months, say after formation, some people might just say, well, I'm going to start this business. I have this great idea. I'm going to form an LLC. I'm going to form it in Maine or New Hampshire or Massachusetts, wherever else. And that's going to be my entity for now. And we'll call it ABC LLC, and I'll pay for a lawyer later on. Not terribly helpful, because the LLC is not a vehicle typically used for private equity financing or private financing. The main vehicle is a Delaware corporation, and that's utilized on a regular basis. So having a state entity that you formed, like you saved yourself a few $100s at one point in time to form this state entity using LegalLink, but now you're going to pay us to do your cleanup. And I happen to be a very expensive maid. And so to clean up that state entity, we have to convert it into a Delaware entity, and you're going to pay a few $1,000s to do that conversion just to get it to a vehicle that can be used for the transaction that you intended. Now, if you had engaged me in the beginning, I could have told you that from the start. And
you must see that all the time, or
yeah,
not.
of course.
I don't know how common that is.
Yeah.
Just the idea of people doing that piece themselves and then engaging with you and then having to fix it. I would think that happens.
Yeah, it's frequent. That's where the benefit, again, of outside general counsel comes in. And if you have an asset that you want to protect and you want to grow and you want to mitigate risk and you're willing to lean on and accept advice on a regular basis, then that's a great model. Those are great clients for me.
So if you look back at your career, is there a case, client that you have, any experience that changed the way that you practice law or view law?
I am fortunate enough to have, so there isn't like a pinnacle or a keystone moment, but I am fortunate enough to have a string of experiences with really great clients that have confirmed why I practice in the corporate space. And in some instances, somebody can hear, oh, he's a corporate lawyer. You think of somebody in a gray suit without much emotion or engagement, kind of dry. That's definitely not me. And the succession of clients that I've had and the relationships I've been able to build up with those clients have led to tremendous success and reward, not only being able to see them succeed, but also helping them navigate some really, really challenging times in their businesses to success, or, at the very least, to a point where their risks are mitigated and the harm to them that they once faced is mitigated as well. And so those are all, I reflect on that even just recently with a deal that closed very positively. I've been able to experience a lot of great clients. And certainly there are times in there where you deal with people that are not so great, whether they're clients or people associated with clients or opposing counsel or whatever else. But for the most part, the practice of law in the corporate space has allowed me to experience really, really rewarding events in my clients' lives. It's also rewarding and enriched my life too.
Last thing I want to ask you.
Sure.
When you got in the business, what's the best professional advice that you ever received? Whether it's from another attorney that you worked with, teacher, someone in your life. Any good advice that you've carried through with you?
Yeah, great question. I think a good piece of advice that I received from some other lawyers was to practice with colleagues. It's important to practice with colleagues. And so often you see lawyers, it's getting less and less now, but so often you see lawyers that are hanging out their own shingle or practicing solo. And that is fine for many people, but it can be challenging and isolating to practice in that environment. And notice how I use practice, right? Because as professionals, you're continuously honing your skills, and it becomes difficult to hone your skills when you don't have anybody to sharpen you. As iron sharpens iron, as the saying goes, you have the human minds sharpen each other. And so to practice in an environment that's collegial with people that are smarter than you, that know other areas of the law better than you, is a great way to practice law, and also just work at life, right? To provide for your family in a stable environment too.
And that applies not just to law. Dude, when you say iron sharpens iron, I just think of me in beds in the office. It's just iron sharpening iron. But
yeah, that's right.
A lot of what you just said is true in our business as well, on the mortgage side of things. Having people to bounce ideas off of, learn from. I'm good at some things, he's good at other things. I'm sure it's like that in the offices that you worked with. And I think that is a good reminder. I think my job would be a lot less enjoyable if I was in an office by myself with no one to turn to get through the tough times and celebrate the wins.
Absolutely, and even that much more rewarding, right? When you're able to work as a group to achieve a goal for a client. I mean, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
So thanks for sharing that. So you mentioned it already through the pod, but you are still taking on clients. You're always looking for companies to work with. So I'll
Correct.
obviously just share your information from the website. And is there any other great ways to get in touch with you?
Email's great. Calling me is great. I have an online calendar that if you email me, I'll email you back. You can book a time that works for you. We'll have an initial consult. No strings attached, and I'm happy to chat with you about how I can provide service to your business and how we can work together.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed
Thank
that.
you for having me.
Yeah, and it sounds like we have some other things to talk about, maybe in the cannabis industry on a part 2 at some point. I know that's a whole part of your business that we could probably spend a whole episode on.
Easily a whole episode on, especially now, especially towards the end of the month when the hearing takes place on regs and how that developed on the federal level. There's a bunch of different stuff that's going on right now. So
yeah, by the time we record it, I'm sure things will change like 50 times.
Yeah, agreed. But, and that's the other part. That's a problem too.
That's the Wild West right now, but we'll have to do it again. But I appreciate you coming on, sharing more about what you do, what you're looking for, and I'll look forward to getting this out for people to see and learn a little bit more about you and Sheehan Phinney. So thanks again, bud.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate it.
All right. See you.